Now, you may be wondering how somebody from Best Buy ended up at this, Great Lakes data, from the Detroit area. I am Michigan through and through. I used to work for Ford. I came back to Michigan having lived all over the country, and I'm never leaving. And I said, you want me? I get to stay. And they said, okay. So they let me fly to Minneapolis once a month. I'm very familiar with Delta. 2 hubs, hop to hop, and I kind of can do that plane ride in my sleep now after doing this for 3 years. Here's how we're going to do this while people are coming in. I know it's 2:30 in the afternoon, and every speaker goes, you have the dreaded 2:30 in the afternoon slot. You all have been eating all day, not walking enough. We're eating pretzels now, I see. All of this is good, so we're going to make this very interactive. You'll note I am not going to hide behind the podium. I'm going to sit here and engage with all of you because, after all, we are the storytellers. And so, therefore, I want you to feel free at any point to interrupt me. You can raise your hand. Nothing phases me except for the sound guy. He's got the cameras there, but I'll repeat the question just for the sake to keep it going. So if I'm ever unclear, feel free to do that. So let's get rolling here. First of all, anybody identify with this guy in the picture? Pretend all of that. This is my life, okay? And so what we're going to talk about today is a story of a journey toward this. Many of these principles we actually figured out at Ford Motor Company a number of years ago. I know we got some Ford and Ford alumni here. Those were great days back in the GDIA early days under Paul Ballou. But we figured, Kritika's nodding, yep, But we figured out a lot of things the hard way. And so I came to Best Buy, and I'm in charge of data governance. All the governance, all the analytics, all that kind of stuff. That's what they brought me in to do. And so I'm about 2 months into my job, and my boss, Craig Brabick, who I knew from Ford days, pulls me aside and goes, Jeff, yeah, I need you to fix data visualization. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. They're going to hate me if I fix data visualization. And he goes, no, you're going to do it. I'll support you. And then he left the company 3 months later. But that's a different story. That's a story for a beer another time along the way. But nevertheless, these are the principles of the journey we've been on for 2.5 years at Best Buy. It's a story. It's what we've learned. I hope there are principles that will help all of you. And again, let's make this engaging and interactive along the way. So let's start out with this. How many of you have ever been to an estate sale? Any estate sale fans? Give me an adjective to just yell it out, and I'll repeat it for the recording. Give me an adjective of what an estate sale's like. Just yell it out. Chaotic. What did you say? Junky. There's just stuff everywhere. What else? Estate sale. It's a what? Yes, it's a treasure hunt. When I think about the world I inherited when my boss pulled me aside of our dashboard universe, this was the image that came to mind. Right here, that was it. We had tables all over the stuff that were loosely guarded together. We had PowerBI, we had Tableau, we had ClickView, we had self-made things. You wouldn't believe it. Everything was there. It's all, and it's on sale and free for all of you to use. And no one had a clue. This is the problem that we were facing. And now, how many of you have ever been to Best Buy? Okay, yeah. Now, we sell cool stuff, right? Especially in this crowd, I can say that, right? I mean, gaming stuff, TVs, all that. What you don't see necessarily is the managers running around with tablets because we track everything. How long you wait at the curb when we smiling bring out I've seen the training videos. We smiling bring out that TV for you and you're all happy because you get this nice 65-inch whatever. We track all of this through reports, through dashboards. It's a huge part of the retail world that we live in. And so I'm going to walk you through our journey, 4 simple things. Excellence starts small. Excellence builds a foundation. excellence should be focused, and excellence will enable everyone. And so let's start about this. Let's start in my story. How does excellence start small? Well, when Craig came to me and said, Jeff, you're going to fix data visualization, and I'm like, okay, me and what army? And he said, oh, I've got that one covered for you. You see, we have all these people called decision scientists, and they just build all this stuff anyway, so I'm just assigning a whole bunch of them to you. Okay. Well, and in theory, they should know what it is that you're inheriting. Okay. And so we pull, I'll never forget this day. I fly to Minneapolis, and I have to sit down face to face. It's the new senior director, you know, and you're sitting down in this little room that they gave me for the day, and everybody comes in all nervous to meet the new boss. Hi. And I'm like, hi. You know, I'm like, tell me what you know about this stuff. And we realized that a lot of these dashboards, we had absolutely no idea what was going on. So we were going to build a center of excellence from the center with data visualization. When I think about a center of excellence, what comes to mind is, anybody watch the Olympics in Milan? Okay, that was the coolest opening ceremony I've ever seen, just to say it was awesome. If you haven't seen it, watch it on YouTube. It's amazing. But in that Olympics, how do we get good? We realized we weren't good. We were getting beat by the Soviets 40, 50 years ago. And they built an Olympics training center. It's in Colorado Springs, and that defined what excellence was going to be for athletics in the U.S. For hockey, the youth development program it's here. It's right here in our backyard. It was in Ann Arbor, now it's in Plymouth. And so on. It defines excellence. And so the vision I painted for my team was this. We have to define what good looks like, because based on what I'm seeing as I'm inventorying, we have no idea. So we started with a small team. We pulled from those already building dashboards, and we realized we had two distinct problems, and they're different. And failure to recognize this will get in your way. One is you got legacy. That's the estate sale. It's all the, I liken it to somebody took a big old dump truck or maybe a garbage truck, backed up to my driveway, and beep, 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 and thousands of dashboards rolled into my backyard. Right there, okay? So you have to deal with the legacy, because for somebody, many of them are important. Guys and gals are walking around our stores looking at them, so we need to make sure that they're running well to do their job. But then second, we have to define what excellence looks like moving forward. How will we build for the future so we can best tell Best Buy's story? So let me ask you guys a random question. How many dashboards do you have in your company, do you think? John? 40? Okay. I was going to say, I don't know what world you live in. I have 45 in like one department, you know? Somebody else over here. How many dashboards do you have over here, John, at UAW? Fewer? Oh my gosh. Wow. Anybody have more than 100? So in the back there. Okay. Who has more than 100? Who has more than 500? All the Ford people should keep their hands up, because I know it's going to keep going. How many more than 1,000? That's the estate sale. Come one, come, hey, dashboard, yep, do I have 5, do I have 10, do I have 15, do I have 20, yep. There we go. That's what we had. It was like a dashboard auction. It was amazing. And so I began to ask the question, why? Why do we have all this stuff? And it was built by people that left the company 20 years ago. You know, it's just kind of how it was. It's always been there. It's like, you know, the statue, or it's like the cube at U of M, or it's like, you know, why is the cube there in the middle of by the Michigan Union? I have no idea, but it's always been there. It's the same principle. And so what we had to do was first create an inventory of what it was. We literally had to go in and scrape the darn thing and figure out all the stuff that we were inheriting. And then we had to figure out, is it worth it? You know, what can we first of all get rid of? You know, we had to decommission some of these dashboards. And so we inventoried, we prioritized, we decommissioned, and we stabilized. Now, How did I learn to do this? Because, what was it? 6, 7 years ago, I was summoned when I was at Ford Motor Company. And I was summoned to the leadership team of GDIA, Global Data Insights and Analytics, because a critical dashboard that went to the dealers had crashed. Why? Because somebody had gone in and moved a SQL table without my knowledge. And so I was summoned. And then they began to ask, well, Jeff, how many dashboards do you have? And I said, about 4,000. And they're like, okay. And so they said, fix it. And I was supposed to go to Miami. No, you're not going to Miami. You're staying in Dearborn, and we're fixing this. And we did an inventory, and we came up with 185 critical dashboards. And we began to systematically stabilize. We called it bulletproofing. You know, that's a very good Detroit language, right? We have to, you know, we were bulletproofing this, and we kept it so it was stable. Many other things we began to decommission. It was the same principle that we then applied at Best Buy. For those that we kept, by the way, we then hired a support system through Accenture, and they actually monitor this, so my developers, instead of fixing them all the time, we just pay a little bit of money to somebody over in India, and they take care of it for us with Accenture. And then we can build the new stuff, which became our focus. And what I had to do was re-educate the team and the company. We're not order takers. We're design consultants. Now think about that difference. You go to the restaurant, they say, hi, may I take your order? And you want to order, I don't know, a chicken sandwich or whatever, and they say, okay. Now, they may think the chicken sandwiches are terrible at the restaurant, but they're not going to disagree with you, are they? Because they're an order taker. Whereas about a year ago, I went to buy tile for my kitchen. Okay? And I went to the tile shop in Ann Arbor, and I wanted to get 1 foot by 1 foot tiles. I figured that was more efficient. And they said, how old's your house? I said, oh, about 150 years old. And they said, that's a terrible idea. And I'm like, why? Because there's no way your floor is going to be straight enough, and it's going to break, and you're going to be unhappy. And so we ended up getting 1-inch tiles, and it's beautiful floor. But that's the difference between a design consultant and an order taker. See, too often my team had been very busy in the past just doing what people want, nodding and smiling, and being Minnesota nice and just doing it, and not telling them that it was going to break and you're going to be unhappy 3 months later, which is what the design consultant told me. So we had to change the entire paradigm of how we viewed visualization in the company. And once we did that, then we had to actually define the excellence, which is we had to build a foundation. Now think about this. We built things like style guides, templates, and we put a review process in place. Now, anybody ever hear of this guy named Gutenberg, Johannes Gutenberg? What did he do? He did the printing press at about 1450 or something like that. What is unique about the printing press is for the first time it enabled us to standardize language. So in English, it was Shakespeare and the King James Bible that standardized how English was going to be written, grammar, language, vocabulary, spelling, and so on. And what we realized we needed to do was create a standard design, a data design language. You know, because people were building it differently, right? They were speaking different dialects about that. Now, we all know the right way to describe that beverage we're drinking outside is pop. And I used to work at Cisco, and I lived in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I walked in and I'd say, hi, in my nasal Midwestern accent, hi, can I have a pop? And they looked at me and said, yeah. They had no idea what I meant. You know, oh, I need a soda. Oh, okay. You see, that's what we do when we were building our dashboards. We had a different way. He was putting the filters over there. She was putting them on the top. Some people were embedding them. It was like, where's Waldo? Where's my filter? I have no idea, right? We needed a standard language so that we could not have different dialects on different teams. It was hindering and wasting our time. Because remember, in what we do, in data reporting, the goal isn't that I did a good job, I spoke. I mean, I'm a failure in this seminar, to be honest, if all I do is talk. I am successful in the seminar if you begin to understand what I'm saying. And that's the critical thing with data visualization. We had to get that language together so that we could help people understand and do something with it. Now, here's the problem. And we were talking about this earlier. I'm a big Click fan. I've worked with Tableau. I've worked with PowerBI. I've worked with all of these different vendors over the years. And I am guilty of this because I trained probably 3,000 people at Ford Motor Company how to do ClickView and Alteryx and all kinds of things back in the day. And those of you who were with me at Ford are nodding zip. Yep, we remember those boot camps, Jeff. But these are, how many of you have seen the movie Ratatouille, the cartoon? The thesis of that is that anyone can cook. But at the end of the movie, they realize that anyone doesn't mean every human being or every person. It's every different kind of person could become a cook. And it's a little subtle shift that goes on in the movie, right? Well, here's the thing. Our partners, and these are actual things I pulled off the web from their websites today, where they're focusing on this thing called democratization. And I was the proponent of it, the champion of it at Ford. Okay, and I love it. I still believe in it. The problem with that is if you democratize without standards, without excellence, without what is good, and we end up with dialects, chaos. It's like the estate sale. And then somebody leaves the company or gets promoted or goes and does something else or retires or whatever, and then you have no idea what they actually built, but that's just really important, and it's just got to keep it going, Jeff. And so we had to determine what that language was. Now, one of the things we've put together on our team recently is the why. Why do we make certain decisions? Because we're going to put them and standardize them in a style guide, and I'll explain that in a moment. And so our why is we created this model that we walk through with the team, is that every dashboard has a purpose, which we then create a composition through principles applied in tools that will have an impact. So what that means is, what is the purpose? I'm a big fan of human-centered design, which is, what is your problem you're trying to solve, and who's your audience? Who's your audience is just as important, by the way, because it's different for the CEO as it is for a data analyst. All right? The end goal is I want to create a space that has unity that tells a story. So that's my end goal, my impact. So I have a purpose, a problem, and an audience with a composition that I'm building that balances two things. Consistency, in other words, red should only mean one thing, and variety, so that it's not boring. Otherwise, we would just make tables. One time I've seen, many times actually, when I was at Ford and other companies, I would see dashboards where red meant bad, red meant Audi, and red meant Brazil, all in the same dashboard. And they would come to you remember? I'd come to my design review and I'd raise my hand. Excuse me, can I ask you a question? Sure, Jeff, what do you want to know? What does red mean? Does it mean bad? Does it mean Brazil, or does it mean Audi? Yes. I'm like, okay, I can't comprehend that world, right? And so we need consistency balanced with variety. Now, what are the principles you could apply in good design? Balance, which is making sure things are lined up and it makes sense. Proportion, we don't lie about our scales. Dominance, flow, simplicity. What are my tools? I can use lines, shapes, value, which is how light or dark something is, texture, color, and again, with the end goal of telling the story. This is the model, or this is the why. So when we create rules, we think it through a principle. And then we began to document the rules. This is if you do nothing else. And if you need help doing this, reach out to me on LinkedIn or call me where I can find people that can help you. This is the secret sauce that has changed the world at Best Buy. We began to take the principles that we defined as excellence and we wrote them down. And we keep adding to it, and we keep adding to it. And it's like, this is how we're going to make things look. And I'll show you some examples in a little bit. And we're going to use this font. And here's your color scheme. And here's your type size. And here's your pixel descriptions. And we got that level because we had to stop the different dialects because I couldn't understand from one to the next to the next. And so we built this cookbook. It's now 70 pages long. And it just keeps growing because we just keep it documenting what we view as excellent. So we created things like, all of you have this in your companies. You have somewhere buried by marketing a color scheme. So they got beautiful hex keys and they've done all the work for you. So all we had to do was embed things that made sense. Now, in our case, anybody know what Best Buy's colors are? Yellow, thank you. We have a lot of yellow. Do you know how many yellow lines I saw in dashboards? I saw that face. Anybody tell me why this is a bad idea? You can't read the darn thing, right? So I had to ban yellow. And they say, Jeff hates yellow. And I'm like, no, I'm a Michigan grad. Half of my wardrobe is maize, which is the proper word for yellow. And but nevertheless, I don't hate yellow. I just hate it as a line graph. You know, so no, we're banning it. That's it. It is officially banned at Best Buy. So you'll see that's not in my color scheme of things I allow along the way. And then we talked about 80+% of your stuff can be done in 4 simple ways. A number, a bar chart, a line graph, or a scatter plot. What's missing? Amen. No pie charts. I like pie. I like raspberry pie. I like blackberry pie. I like pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving. I hate pie charts. All right, amen? Can I have an amen on that one? All right, that's my people here. By the way, all of these numbers are for illustrative purposes. No Best Buy secrets are being disclosed in this presentation. I have to say that for legal, so there you go. So then we created a standard layout. To do a standard layout, we thought about who is the best at this historically. It was the newspapers. Now, I know we don't get them in paper anymore, but if you think about it, newspapers always have a header with things like a date. The headline is the most important thing that's always on the top. The navigation helps. We're on the left side. I can't believe Mitch Albom was still there like 25 years ago. And the most important story is on the top. Under the fold are your details. That fits into the whole design theory of what we call the Z-frame, of how your eye follows it in the Western world. Okay? Where you start at the top left, you go over to the right, and then you kind of Z over to the left, and you go over again, right? That's how we read. So you want the most important real estate is the top left, underneath the header. So we imitated that and created what it should look like, and that's an example from our style guide of how we think good visualization should be. And so here we go into detail where we actually show out, and again, these are principles that we invented, some of these at Ford, because why do we have an info tab on the top right? Because I got tired of people asking us questions all the time. So we put it in there. Did my dashboard refresh yet? We just put it in there. Then they don't have to ask me anymore. You know, right there, simple. Clean headline. I've got it nice and clean. And we put this together as our approach. And then we built templates for this. We have a template for Looker. We have a template for Power BI. We have a template for Tableau as a way to integrate, and all of the color, the fonts, it's all embedded in there. Our secret Best Buy area maps, all of that stuff we've got embedded in the template. And then yes, go ahead. Oh, that's a great question. Why do we use 3 different data visualization tools if I'm standardizing it? Can I hire you as my boss? There's the answer to my question. No, some of it is just a history, that people have a history with Tableau. Some of it is, if in the Looker universe, in the Google universe, Looker's a nice tool to sit on top if you want to have really quick, simple visualization. If you want something pretty that you want to get out to the stores, you need role-based security, you need all of that, that's when you use Power BI. So we actually have different use cases for it, although I would love to just have Power BI. Just saying. Wireframing, it's a principle we started doing. My team will not build until they do a wireframe and it's approved. When we started doing this at McDonald's, it cut 6 weeks off our development time. You know, because I can go back and forth on paper or on PowerPoint or on Figma with, you know, a lot easier than I can go back and forth with real code. And so that helps them see it along the way. We also do design reviews. Again, something we picked up at Ford, where my team, at least in the center, to ensure excellence, has to come through, and we take a look at it just to make sure we're following, you know, and we've done our best job of that. What that's done is standardized my team, and the skill level of my team has gone up dramatically since we started doing this. So we've talked a bit about this idea of excellence. It starts small, it starts with foundations, and now we're going to get into some nitty-gritty, and we're going to talk about this thing called a product team. How many of you guys use product teams in the world? You know, it's not as common in Michigan. I hadn't done it this way until I came to actually Best Buy. A product team it's basically this, where you have an expert over a domain who's kind of the in-betweener of everything. That person owns the business and gets to know what the business needs and represents that. That person then works with the engineers or with the data people or the viz people or whomever, prioritize the project. So think of it as a project manager on steroids, that they have to understand and know that domain, and they earn the trust of the leaders in that area. And when you're in a retail space, that's a very common model that we use in retail. Well, they said, you know, Jeff, we need to integrate you with the product model. I'm like, what's the product model? And they began to explain it to me. And some of my folks were initially leery of it, but I'm like, hold on, wait a second. Wait, you're telling me your job's going to be to figure out what the business wants? Yup. Your job's going to be dealing with them when they're angry? Yup. Your job's going to help me prioritize what I should build and what I shouldn't build? Yup. Sold. You know, now I get to do all the fun, cool stuff, and you get to take all the crap. I think this is an awesome way, you know, kind of put this together. But it really does help if you have someone, whether it's a PMO or whether it's a product model or however you're going about it, someone that can help you figure out what's most important. If you're interested in product models, Marty Kagan is the guru of all things product. He's written 3 books, including Inspired. But they follow this hub and spoke model that each product manager owns the data products for a particular domain. Very helpful to have as an ally, at least in our real world situation. So finally, we've talked about how excellence starts small. Excellence is you build a foundation. Excellence can be helped through prioritization by the right people. And finally, excellence can be opened to everyone. Now, newsflash, yes, I have the privilege of a centralized team. No, I do not build everything across the company. Remember what the vendors are telling everyone? Everybody can build it. Hey, you want to build a dashboard? Ha, here you go. I will give you the software really cheap. Build, go ahead and build some more. And quite frankly, I don't have the capacity to build everything for a large retail company. So I want people to be able to self-serve and build that, but I also don't want them to build bad things or things in contradiction, right? And so I want you to think about this for a second. Now, think about the person that's in charge of the rules. I own data governance at Best Buy, so I get to have this space, right? When you think of the word governance, what comes through your mind? Yeah, exactly. She's just shaking her head like this. Like, no, I don't like those guys. Audit. Think about that word for a minute. You know, audit. I hated it when the audit people come into my office at Ford. And I'm like, we're being audited. We're auditing. I'm like, no, I don't like this. Audit. Governance. So there can be a temptation to say it's chaos. This is an estate sale. It's madness. You know, not March Madness, but the rest of the year madness. It's insane. And how do people respond? No way. I don't want you to slow me down. I'm just going to build it. Right? I'm going to take my Tableau. I'm going to take my little Excel workbook, and I'm going to stick it in there through SharePoint, and I'm going to build this thing on my desktop, and then I'm going to actually make business decisions critical to the entire company based on that, which is what we had. And no one wants to slow you down, So instead of thinking about being the policeman, you got to think about it differently. How can I come bearing gifts? Gifts? Who likes gifts? Anybody? Oh, come on. The rest of you, nobody you guys don't like gifts? Like, wow. Maybe, give back that gift bag they gave you at the table there. It's like, hey, Databricks, Snowflake, we're giving you back those bottles. It's all good. We don't like gifts. No, we like gifts, right? So what we developed was a way to engage with the overall user community without overburdening my team. What did we do? We started a community of practice. Once a quarter, we do this. It's an hour. We invite every person with a visualization license in the entire company to this meeting. They don't all come, but we average around 300. So that's a pretty good attendance. And what do we do in that hour? It's always the same format. It's almost laughable. Is we kind of do a little hype. We talk about something cool or new that's coming in the ecosystem. Then we demo them how using our templates, our things will make your life easier. Like one time, one of my guys on my team built from scratch a Looker dashboard in 6 minutes, live in front of everybody. Yeah, the wow factor of that one was, guess what happened? I started seeing my template all over the place because people watch that and watch the recording like, holy moly, he did that in 6 minutes? Man. See, it became a gift. It's not a burden. We're handing you, half your work is already done. It's a template. All the fonts there, the colors there, it's all there, So we brought that in as a gift. And then we encourage use of that. Then we always have a business stakeholder tell a story or show off something they built self-serve that follows our rules. But it's not rules, it's a gift. See? Style guide, it's a gift. You don't know what to do at Best Buy? Here, I got 70 pages. Read it in your spare time. It's exciting. It's fun. Templates is a gift because we can get it there faster. We offer 1 hour a week of office hours. You got a problem? You want help? We're there for you. Come on in. We got experts waiting on call to help you out. Design review. We will offer, if you're one of my self-serve developers and you're building something, well, you want us to take a look? We'll take a look and give you some feedback. Would you like to do that? It's a gift. We help people this way. And so the not so fine print is, if you build it, self-serve person, I will not fix it. Period. End of discussion. We do not support it. But what we see here is, by evangelizing excellence and bringing it down to them, we're having a positive, soft influence on the overall design of the company without coming across as the legal bullies along the way. This is an example of something we've stumbled into. You can see the common thing. They like the blue and yellow everywhere. It was, yeah, exactly. It was horrible. Like, this was promoted to thousands of people in the company. Oh, I know, the moans. That was my response too. We reached out to these guys and we said, can we help you? And they were actually really gracious and they said, you would? And so we did. We had to block out the data because that would be proprietary. But see how much cleaner that looked? They're getting awards and they're like, and we don't get the credit. I don't want the credit. I just want good, And that's an example. They just actually demoed this in one of our community practices last time. You should have seen people like, whoa, that's really different. Think how better that is. So we are able to bring gifts and help everyone pursue excellence. And so my challenge to all of you is join us on the journey. You start small, build a foundation, get some help to focus, and make it open to everyone. And I think I have a couple minutes left, so what would you like to know? I'm an open book. Yeah, go ahead. I'll repeat it. It's fine.
The 3,000, 4,000 dashboards, how was the security managed on that?
We managed it at Ford through FIM groups. And similarly at Best Buy, we use security groups that we have that. That's pretty easy to do in Power BI universe. Also easy to do in Qlik, Tableau. You have to have a security group that you join to get access to the dashboard. Most of them we don't make open to all. In fact, it's very, very rare we do in that. You could do it either through your data source or you can actually embed in Power BI. And if you do level-based security and you're in a GCP environment, you're going to need to embed in the dashboard because the security won't carry through. I can tell you that. I learned that the hard way. That's for free. There you go. Great question. What else could I answer for you guys? Yeah, in the back.
What are your thoughts on dashboards as code?
When you say dashboards as code, explain that a little more to me. What it could mean 1,000 things.
The template that you just showed, right? Like, do you have an option for that to be coded and version control, for example, and then spin up from it?
So my team in the center, we use a get control system where we actually embed the code that like the PBIX code in our get. That way we can keep the version control along the way. And then we actually, when we deploy, we pull from the get. So that way we can seamlessly control all of our changes. We have to do that from the center because we have to do excellent in a way we're accountable before God and Best Buy to make sure the things that we build, we can at least make sure are right. And so that's how we maintain it. And so it is actually not that difficult. You just have to discipline it. Self-serve, I don't support it, so it's the Wild West. Yeah. Ooh. Are we sharing semantic models across the various platforms? You mean tools? So yes and no, and let me explain. We're a GCP environment, and so obviously within Looker, it just sits right there in that semantic layer. To work well in Power BI, by that I mean performant, and I put stopwatches to everything, and I run tests. If you can't initially load in 5 seconds and every function is less than 3, you're going back to, you're going back to development. So it just is managed. We actually have to then pull it up through a regularly scheduled refresh up into Fabric for that. But you can, in theory, every platform can have access to everything except for Looker can't get anything that's in Teradata. It can only get in the GCP world. So good question. Yeah.
How has the AI world changed dashboarding for you? For example, automatic extraction of insights, like the chart, but everybody can interpret it so differently. So how do you see AI as an opportunity to standardize the insights as well?
Yeah, this is a great question. I was in a podcast in a session for the IIA, the International Institute of Analytics, and we were actually one of the things there were 3 of us experts, whatever. And we were asked to make predictions. And one of my predictions was, despite AI's best attempts, dashboards will continue to grow. And it was really fun. It kind of elicited it was a hot take, but it elicited a great response. I think that's true, and I'll answer it in a couple ways. Can AI help you? Yes. Let me give you an example of what my team is working on today. All right? This is top secret, so you're going to get in on it. We use Power BI mostly. There's this thing called Copilot. The problem with Copilot is that if you ask it a question, it'll pull from any data that you've given it access to, not just your dashboard. So what my team is working with, and when you ask it to build something, it's not going to follow my style guide or my standards. It puts pie charts on it. It's evil. Okay? Let's just say no. All right? So we're working on a project to see if we can train Copilot with our template and build it out in a way that we could have it wireframe for us live in the template. The team is convinced they can do this. I have some amazingly talented folks on my Bangalore team, and they're working on this right now. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll tell you in a couple months if it worked. I think it's gonna. And so I think that's revolutionary. I'm leery of just being able to extract insights because I can't trust that it's going to extract them the right way. And here's where humans are always distinct. All right, if I look down here, there's a pattern on this carpet. If I were to find something unusual in the pattern of this carpet, my eye would be drawn to it because I'm a human. That's just how we are, right? So when you see a good data visualization, if you see that, whoa, where did that come from? You're immediately going to ask why. Machines can't do that. The AI can't do that yet, at least to the things I'd want to know about it. And that's where I think it's got to grow and improve. Can it tell me what my sales were last month in Minnesota? Sure. Great. Okay. And maybe I think it's useful for ad hoc query like that. But for really good storytelling, it's not there yet. Now, we're going to try to make it work. We're going to try to tune it. And my team is on it. Like, they're really excited about this. We do these innovation weeks once a year, and they're doing it as their big innovation project. And if they pull it off, it's a winner. I'm real curious to see what we do. Great question. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm going to ask for a report consolidation or rationalization.
Yeah.
And then you've got to figure out merge, consolidate, decommission. This is going to leave a lot of people not happy.
Yeah.
How have you dealt with when, obviously you would have gone through some of those exercises like that. How have you dealt with that feedback that comes across when you do this?
So, remember what I said at the very beginning of the seminar when my dear friend Craig asked me to take over data visualization, and I said I'm going to make everybody really unhappy. Because, I did. I made some people unhappy. But over time, I'm making a lot more people very happy right now because they're seeing much better stuff, and it doesn't break. Or if it breaks, they don't know it because my support system fixes it before they even are aware. So they're getting a better product. It goes back to that Christmas or that gift-giving analogy. The same is true. You can't just go in and say, this sucks, I'm going to fix that. Kill that one. I actually did this when I was at Ford. Tony, you remember this? It's like we built a dashboard that showed usage of the dashboards. It was awesome. I went to this leadership meeting, okay? And I had people calling me afterwards. I was like, you can't show that dashboard. I'm like, why? Because you show my dashboard has only 5 people using it. But it's true. Yeah, but you don't understand, Jeff. They're 5 important people. But it's only 5. And they use it like once over 3 months. It's like, seriously? It's humbling when we see reality. And we're all this way. I'm guilty of it, right? So, we just have to do it with grace, transparency, honesty, humor, and show that you actually care about the end thing, which is I want to give you a better product that's actually stable and honest and accurate. That's what people care. Yes, in the back.
Being able to kind of like even do the I am this persona within your audience. Let me review this dashboard based on this.
We're going to go there. We're looking at it. I think it's early. I love what you just said there about the persona. Thank you for that because I think that's the key that's forgotten. Corey Berry's my CEO, wonderful lady. She needs different dashboards than my store GM if you go to the one in Ann Arbor Saline Road in Ann Arbor, Michigan, right? That's a different dashboard. And so I need that persona to help be able to do that. That's what the team is starting to look at, and we're going to play with it. So reach out to me on LinkedIn in a couple months. I'm curious what we're going to learn in this journey. We're on the cutting edge of it. And I got the flashing sign. We're done. Y'all have been great. I hope this has kept you interested. Thank you all. Hey, come talk to me. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I live in the area. I just fly to Minneapolis every now and then. Have a good rest of your day.